Vanderbilt will finally snap that 16-game losing streak versus South Carolina. Will they? We'll see.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, yo, welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making us part of your day. Thanks for making us your first listen. And shout out to you everydayers. Shout out to anyone of you who stopped by. Thanks for making this show what it is. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Speaking of today, we're going to begin ahead of training camp looking at all of Vanderbilt's opponents. Last episode, we took a little peek at Charleston Southern and the importance of that game and why it matters. But one of the most important matchups for Vanderbilt is their SEC opener, their SEC road opener, that is, against South Carolina. What's the impact of this game? What are the implications riding onto this game? How can Vanderbilt win it? Is there a chance? I think there is. What do I think is going to actually happen? Like we're going to talk about all that. We're going to break down all of that on this episode. So, I think when you look at the schedule, this is a game that I think was circled on that schedule. I mean, you've got it right there. It's your SEC opener. It's week 3. It's going to be a very, very fun battle here. You've got Diego Pavia versus LaNorris Sellers. The game is at 6 p.m. Or 6:45. It's a flex game. It could be either on ESPN or SEC Network, depending on what happens with Virginia Tech, with both of these teams actually. So, I think this is going to be one of those games where the implications of this thing are going to make it a very intriguing matchup. I think just for what's on the line in this game, the quarterback battle that is looming in this game, LaNorris Sellers versus Diego Pavia, two of the best quarterbacks in the conference. And this is going to be an exciting game. There's a lot riding on this game. I think there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on this game. I think you're going to get a chance to, whoever wins this game, I think is going to get they're obviously going to get momentum. They're going to get, it's going to be the start of a possible really good run for Vanderbilt if they can win this game. And same with South Carolina, because South Carolina typically struggles with these early season games. So the implications for both teams is, hey, we're going to get our conference slate off on the right foot. For Vanderbilt, it goes much, much deeper. It's been 16 straight seasons of losing to South Carolina. 16 straight seasons. I mean, that's got to weigh on you. And there's an idiom out there, like, we're due. We are due. Vanderbilt is due for a win, right? And I don't know if that's an idiom or not, but they're due. They're definitely due for a win. And this is one of those games that's going to prove it. I mean, it doesn't get much tougher than this, obviously. But when you look at what's on the line for Vanderbilt, I think in order to progress in the NIL era, to progress in the rev share era, to be able to get or start getting top-notch players, right? They're starting to get that ball rolling. They got Jordan White. They got a few offensive linemen. Some of these receivers are dark horse candidates for big name guys. But if they're going to be major players in the transfer portal and even high school recruiting, I think, honestly, they've got to win this game. They've got to go on the road. And they'll get a chance to get a warm-up the week before, but they've got to go on the road. And probably one of the most – and this is one of the most surprisingly hostile environments in the SEC. Like, you don't think of Williams-Brice Stadium as a very hostile – when you put it – you don't think of it as hostile when you put it up against LSU, Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, the Swamp. When you put it up against those places – DKR, whatever they call Oklahoma Stadium. Like, you don't think of South Carolina as being up in that upper echelon of harsh places to play. But everyone that I've talked to says that their favorite place to play, their most intense place that they've played, is not LSU. And that's a very harsh place to play. It's not Auburn. It's not, I don't know if any of them played it. I don't think anybody I talked to played at Texas. It's not the Swamp. It's South Carolina. Because the fans are right there on top of you. I mean, right there on top of you. It's usually the seventh layer of hell when it comes to heat. Sandstorm, this crowd, no matter how good or how bad South Carolina is, they are going to be in a frenzy. Sandstorm's going to be playing. They're going to be in an absolute frenzy. And so you've got that going, and that jacks up the South Carolina's team. They've been extremely well coached during the Steve Spurrier era, and they've had a lot of success relative to what they've been able to do. They were a program that was in the basement, and then they had a resurgence under Steve Spurrier and was able to get some footing. And they had a limited ceiling at that time, but I mean, they maximized everything that they could do within the constraints of their program and where they were in a recruiting sense. But the implications of this game are Vanderbilt can snap this streak. They could be considered as a legitimate team in the Southeastern Conference, right? This is the game that if Vanderbilt can win, I think they can get to 9. If they can beat South Carolina, I think they get to 9. I think this would be a start of a run of confidence. This can be the game that sets them off, right? Because coming into this game, that's assuming that obviously you come into this game 2-0. You get a win at Virginia Tech, in week 2 on the road. And if you look solid doing that, then I don't see why they couldn't win. And so the implications of this, you get started off on the right foot, bowl game wise. Okay, you snap the streak. The streak is probably the most important thing. That's one of those. That's one of those. It's like a heavy burden. The streak is like, it's almost curse worthy. It's almost like the curse of the Billy Goat for the Cubs or the curse of the Bambino for the Red Sox. It's not quite that level because it's like 86 years and 108 years for those curses. But 16 straight seasons, it ain't good. And it's nearing those type of levels where it doesn't matter what you do, you're never going to beat them. And it's starting to feel that way. And if they can get that proverbial whatever off their back, if they could get that out of the way and knock that barrier down, this could be a more competitive rivalry. But right now it's Vandy hates South Carolina because South Carolina's beaten the heck out of them for 16 straight years. Nothing has gone right for Vanderbilt in these games. Like it's a situation where Vanderbilt is, I think, I forget what year it was, but Vanderbilt was playing really, really well, and they get to South Carolina. South Carolina just boat raced them. And I remember watching that game being confused, like how South Carolina is okay. Like they were probably the most evenly matched that they have been. Like South Carolina was underachieving a little bit, Vanderbilt was overachieving a lot, and they were kind of right there in the middle together. And I thought it was going to be a close game, and I thought Vanderbilt was going to have the edge. And I can't remember exactly what year this was. Might have been 16 or 17, I think, one of those years, where they were tight, or I thought they were going to be tight, and it wasn't. And it's just because, I think there's a mental block in this matchup. I think there's, and especially when they're playing out there. So there's going to be a lot of hurdles to clear for Vanderbilt. And the implications of doing all of that will, I think, unlock some things and unlock some confidence that they've never known they had if they can go to Williams-Brice Stadium, one of the most hostile places in the entire SEC, to take down the South Carolina Gamecocks. And if they can do that, I think it's going to set them up for a massively successful season. But the question is this: how? South Carolina is good. How do they do that? We'll talk about it next. Well, if you want to get tickets to that game, I can tell you a really good place to go. That's Gametime. Have you ever decided last minute that you wanted to go to a ball game with friends and family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without all the stress. And with the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. And Gametime makes that possible. And Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to game time and to tip off and to first pitch or whatever it is you're going to. And you can get last minute deals, and they're incredible deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying whatever. So this is really good for that if you want to go. But I'm looking at some deals here. There's a lot of concerts happening in Nashville. I'm looking at the app right now. Boom. And if you want to go to the Psychedelic Furs, it's at Brooklyn Bowl. They have a great deal, $72, 9% off. It's a zone deal, and what it's going to do is going to let me pick the section, and they're going to pick the seats. And if you want to go to a baseball game, there's no MLB team here in Nashville, but if you want to make your way to Atlanta, I'm sure there's some great deals on some Braves tickets as well. All you got to do is go to Gametime, who's the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, and make it easy to browse the app for upcoming exciting MLB games. Right? Gametime has last-minute tickets and zone deals for big savings, like 10% off exclusive zone deals for FIFA Club World Cup matchups. Seat views right in the app before you buy, so you know exactly where you're going to be. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. It's LOCKEDCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. Thank you. Shout out to you, everydayers. You make this show possible. Thanks for making us part of your day. We're free and available on YouTube and wherever you find your podcast. Go check us out, man. Hit the like, subscribe button. And when you're done, click over here, Locked On SEC. Great place to go. Chris Gordy does a phenomenal job. Locked On College Football. NCAA 26 has come out. And so I'm sure they're talking about it on all the channels there. And, of course, the full lineup of Locked On SEC shows, ranging from Locked On Ole Miss with Stephen Willis, Locked On Auburn with Zach Blackerby. Sure, it's getting real interesting over there with all this stuff with Hugh Freeze. Locked On Razorbacks, Locked On Bulldogs, Locked On Gators, so on and so forth. All great shows when we get together and we do squad shows, and it's really, really interesting. Sometimes we just get off the rails and we don't talk about what we intend on talking about, and that's okay. That's how those squad shows usually go, and they're usually the most fun. But anyway, talking about South Carolina, right? How do you end the streak? The streak is important. The streak can, unlocking this confidence that will come from snapping this losing streak will be, the joys of that will be endless, especially if you do it on the road. I think there's great success right around the corner if you can do that on the road. Okay. And there's ways to do it. Now, South Carolina is a tough team. We know that. We know what we're going through. We know that this is going to be a thing. Diego Pavia versus LaNorris Sellers. LaNorris Sellers is arguably, I say arguably because people will disagree and say Garrett Nussmeier. But LaNorris Sellers preseason is arguably the top quarterback in the conference. Diego Pavia, depending on who you are, if you're SEC Mike, you're probably not thinking too highly of Diego Pavia. And you got him down there at like number 12 or something, which is asinine. Don't get me started there. But Diego Pavia is right there on LaNorris Sellers' heels as far as being the top quarterback in the conference, which, you could argue that, it's a lot closer and whatever, but LaNorris Sellers is good. And we could throw stats all around, but Diego Pavia and LaNorris Sellers are really the same. Pavia is older, but they're really kind of the same quarterback. LaNorris Sellers might have a little bit more downfield accuracy or a little bit better downfield accuracy than Diego Pavia, but they're both playmakers. They both do a lot of things with their legs. They both can create. They both can complete passes short to intermediate really well. They both do a lot of great things. They both provide a lot of juice. Diego Pavia, probably with the intangibles and leadership qualities, is probably head and shoulders above LaNorris Sellers. I think the way he injects confidence into his team. LaNorris Sellers, I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't, but what I'm saying is like LaNorris Sellers is more of a quiet leader, which there's room for that. It may not necessarily mean that like Diego Pavia is like way up here on leadership skills and LaNorris Sellers is way down here. I'm just saying it's probably like this: Pavia, Sellers. Like, I think there's some sort of approach, and I think Pavia's approach works better for his team than LaNorris Sellers' approach works for his team. Anyway, how does Vanderbilt win this game? Because it's a great matchup between two phenomenal teams. So how do they win, right? How do they win? Well, here's the first thing. Okay, you got to manage the hostile road environment. Okay, that's going to be the biggest thing, because playing in that environment is, like I said before, weather-wise, especially in week 3, it's going to be the 7th layer of hell when it comes to temperature. It's going to be hot. It's going to be miserable. It's going to be humid. And the sun is going to be beating down all game long. Even at 6 o'clock, it is hot. The sun will be beating down for the first half. It'll be dark in the second half, but it's going to be hot. The atmosphere is going to be electric. The white towels are going to be waving. They're going to have the 2001 Space Odyssey, Sandstorm, the Gamecock that's going to be crowing and doing what it does, squawking or whatever you call it. It's going to be an atmosphere that it's just like, whoa, what are we dealing with here, right? So you got to manage all of that. You've got to keep your composure. You've got to keep your focus, and you've got to practice that situation. You got to get ready for that situation. Go in the indoor and make it to where you can't hear a dang thing when you're practicing, right? Make it the most miserable experience that you can make it, and practice in those conditions. That will get you ready for that. Okay, that's the first way to do it. You have to manage that hostile road environment, okay, and limit backbreaking mistakes. You got to play clean. And these environments it's very easy to make a ton of mistakes in this type of environment. It's very simple to do that. And this is before we're even getting into player matchups and how do you play against Sellers? How do you play against Dylan Stewart? Where do you limit them? How do you, before any of that, if you have a bunch of backbreaking penalties, pre-snap penalties, motion penalties, things that happen when you can't handle the road environment, things that happen when you let the momentum ball roll too fast, things that happen when you let the elements fatigue you, backbreaking mistakes, not communicating because you can't hear. That's not an excuse. You got to practice those situations. Getting burnt because it is hot and humid and you're thirsty, you're tired, right? You have to be prepared for all these situations because they're going to come up. Environmental situations it's going to be a plenty at Williams-Brice Stadium. You're going to have people screaming at you, screaming personal information at you, heckling you. Every little thing you do, you're going to hear about it constantly. You're going to be hot. You're going to be tired. These offensive linemen, tight ends are going to get tired of figuring out how to block Dylan Stewart. These defensive linemen are going to be tired from chasing LaNorris Sellers and pinning him in the pocket. Like, you're going to be tired. Overcome that. Communicate. That's how you win. You communicate. You play clean. You limit your pre-snap penalties. Don't jump off sides. Don't cross into the neutral zone. Don't do those things pre-snap that just kill a drive. It destroys and wrecks a drive when you finally get some momentum and boom, you jump off sides. 1st and 15 just seems insurmountable. It's not really, but it seems insurmountable just because you're just like, oh, It's all the wind just comes rushing out of your sails, right? Play clean, manage the hostile road environment. How you do that? Practice in it. You're going to have to practice for it for Virginia Tech too. Practice for it. Prepare for it. Prepare for it to be the worst environment possible. You played at LSU. You should know. And plus, you're going to be playing at Texas. You're going to be playing at Alabama. You're going to be playing at Tennessee. Those are awful road environments too. You got to prepare for it. This is their first test. That's another implication. How you play in Williams-Brice is going to be how you play in Tuscaloosa, Austin, Knoxville, all those places, right? That's a game you need to come out full focused, right? So also, how do you beat South Carolina? How? Well, I think you gotta pop on that Illinois game film, and I think you got to figure out a way to force LaNorris Sellers to beat you from the pocket. He's going to be a good quarterback. I don't think he's a pocket passer. I don't think he's somebody that's going to sit in the pocket and pick you apart. He is a guy that likes to buy himself time. He loves to run, so you can't let him do that. You gotta pin him in the pocket, push it from the center, and force him to stand in there and deliver. That's how you beat those guys. That's how you beat Diego Pavia. That's what teams did to Diego Pavia. They contained and slow rushed him, forced him to play within that pocket. And Diego Pavia, you would see him at times looking at the rush. LaNorris Sellers against Illinois was looking at the rush. LaNorris Sellers against Ole Miss doing the same thing. You got to control rush it, pin him in there, and then press it in from the middle. So make him where he can't step up into a throw comfortably, and make it to where he can't escape. It's just got to be like a slow blob just taking him over, right? You don't have to. He's not a guy that you have to just send missiles at him, because he's going to dodge those and he's going to go get big yardage. You have to do that while also at the same time disrupting the receivers, knock them off course, disrupt their timing, get into these throwing lanes, right? Hit those guys, rattle those guys, knock LaNorris Sellers down every time he throws the ball. Don't let him throw from a clean pocket, because he can beat you from a clean pocket. He's good enough to do that. But you have to make it seem like it's not a clean pocket, and you have to disrupt the timing. If you can disrupt the timing by getting your paws up into a throwing lane, you jam the receiver up, you jostle, you just do whatever you can to knock those guys around. And I think you'll have a really, really good shot at coming away with a victory, because I think it's gonna unravel like the Illinois game did. It's going to unravel because they don't know, like the Ole Miss game too. They just don't know right now. I don't think they have an answer for that. Now, they could come out and just completely cram it down our throat in the run game. So you got to be ready for that too. But I think the best way to go is for LaNorris Sellers to you got to affect him. If you can affect him, turn this team one-dimensional, you're going to be in great shape. And so I'm very, very excited about that. I'm very excited to see what they can do. And this is going to be a fun contest. This is going to be a great defensive game plan for Vandy to try to contain LaNorris Sellers. Force him, and if he can beat you making throws from the pocket, tip of the cap, good job. But you've got to disrupt him. You've got to disrupt the receivers. You've got to knock him down as many possible times as you can. And that's the way you got to go. All right, offensively, drop back passing game is not going to work. They've got this guy named Dylan Stewart. Yeah, they got this guy named Dylan Stewart. He's going to be a nightmare. So I think that's going to be something that you have to focus on and say, okay, we've got to figure out ways to get this ball down the field, and we've got to be able to do it small chunks. You've got to be able to find ways to run it. Now, the best way to attack a dynamite pass rusher is to run right at him. Right, edge rusher Kyle Kennard and Nick Amari are gone. So they got to replace those guys. And they've got to replace some defensive linemen as well. But, it's going to be a team that's replacing a lot from a team that was fourth in the SEC in total defense. So if they can replace all of that production that left, I think they'll be okay. But there's going to be some weaknesses around. There's going to be some ways to get to this defense early on. Later on in the season, when they get it finally figured out, they're going to be hell on wheels. But until then, right now, defensive lineman Dylan Stewart, Jalen Kilgore, those are your key playmakers on that side of the ball. So you got to zero in on those guys. And you got to figure out, okay, where's Kilgore? Where's Stewart? We're going to go right at Stewart. Force him to play the run. Option off of him. Throw quick RPOs. Do those things, and you're going to be just fine in the offensive game plan. So what's going to actually happen? It got late early. I'm going to tell you just 1 second. That was an exhausting game plan. Can South Carolina – no. Can Vanderbilt snap the 16-game losing streak against South Carolina? Can they do it? That's the question. That's the guiding question. That's the biggest thing looming right now. Can they end that streak? The answer is yes. Here's why. Here's what I think is going to happen, okay? Vanderbilt's going to break the streak on a late game go-ahead field goal by Brock Taylor. Final score is going to be 30-27. Here's why. Because I think defensively, Vanderbilt, and I think they had a decent game plan early on. They just ran out of gas against South Carolina last season. I think they have a better roster. I think what Clark Lee and this defensive staff does a really good job of is taking away what you do best. And for that, I think they're going to have a great game plan for LaNorris Sellers. I think they're going to be able to contain him for the most part. Now, they're still going to score 27 points, which is a good offensive output. But I think they're going to make enough plays defensively to give Vanderbilt the opportunity to kick that go-ahead field goal. Offensively, I think they're going to – I think South Carolina is still – at this point in the season, still going to be figuring a lot of things out on the defensive side of the ball. I think when you come out of a really successful season, fourth in total defense, and you lose a bunch of production, it takes it a minute. It takes teams a minute to replace that. And South Carolina typically has not been a team that starts very strong. Even if they get wins at the beginning of the season, they're wins to where there's a lot of gray area where you're like, did they get the win? No, right? Against LSU, they faltered. They had LSU beat. You could argue the ref screwed them, which that didn't help. But they were tanking well before then, and LSU was trying not to. They were trying not to tank as well. So I think this is a very interesting matchup, and I think that South Carolina. I think the weight of this streak on Vanderbilt, I think, is going to help put them over the hump. I think they're going to have a really good offensive game plan against Dylan Stewart. They don't have Kyle Kennard on the other side to help, which was absolutely unfair last year. Kennard's in the NFL now. So they have Dylan Stewart. And I think when you have one elite pass rusher, it's easier. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be easier to game plan for that. And a lot of times it's run right at him, make him wrong, make him do cardio instead of playing football. Things like that, like optioning off of him, running right at him, pulling a kick out block to him or wrapping to him or trying to reach him, things like that just really force him to be that physical run dominant player. Force him into that because he's an edge guy. He's a pass rush specialist. He's going to be really good he's going to be a really good player in the NFL when he's draft eligible. He just is. He's going to be one of the best players in the draft, bar none, right? But like for him to be that, force him to play the run, see what he's got. He may dominate, but I think you have to force that issue. You have to, and I think they will. And I think they'll come right at it. I think Vanderbilt's going to last thing I'll say is Vanderbilt, I think, will take advantage of South Carolina trying to learn about itself at the early part of the season. I think South Carolina will escape a win against Virginia Tech. But I think Vanderbilt's going to be hungry. They're a deeper roster. They're a more talented roster. They had a good plan last year. They could not execute it, but I thought they had a good plan. You could see what they were trying to do. They just could not execute it for a lot of reasons. I think they're going to have a better go at executing it this year, even in the worst possible environment. I think they learned a lot about managing really bad, horrible, hostile road environments. I think they learned a lot of things, learned a lot of what not to do. So that's going to be kind of where I'm at on that. They win 30-27. That's going to be my early. Now this may alter depending on how both teams come out against Virginia Tech, but this can be 30-27. That's my early prediction of the South Carolina game. The streak ends. Vanderbilt unlocks a lot of confidence, and it's going to be a fun season after that. 30-27 is your final. It's going to be a barn burner. It's going to be a classic game. It's going to be an amazing game. LaNorris Sellers is going to have a phenomenal game, but it's not going to. But he's not. I don't think he's. I think Vandy's going to make a few more plays at the end. That's going to put him across. So let me know what you think, South Carolina fans. I know you probably are going to attack me. That's fine. It's fun. It's all in good fun, right? Just don't make it personal. And I'll see you back here next time. Until then, anchor down, behave yourself. Peace.